I've talked about the 1974 arcade game Tank before in previous videos, but I haven't actually gone into the massive influence it had on the early console market. In the days before the big arcade boom of the late 70s/early 80s, there weren't many games that would hit a level of cultural influence that would be remembered today outside of Pong. That said, Atari's Tank was one of the more common and popular machines from that era, even if it has been mostly forgotten about today. The concept was immediately understandable. Two players each control a tank and try and shoot each other. The player with more points at the end of the time limit is the winner. When the home console market started to move away from just a system that played variations of Pong to actual programmable home computer systems in 1976/77, arcade games were already getting a bit more complex and were utilizing more cutting-edge hardware to power them. Platforms like the Channel F and the Atari VCS, by comparison, were using much cheaper consumer-grade tech to keep the price down. This led developers to stick to older and simpler arcade titles and ideas from the past in order to work around their hardware's limitations, especially as their programmers learned how to develop for them without any kind of pre-established tools or documentation. As you might imagine then, Tank was one of the premier choices to bring to home platforms. And I do mean platforms, plural. There was one for the Channel F, for the Atari VCS, the Bally Astrocade, the Odyssey 2, and even the Intellivision, all within the span of around 3 years. We'll kick things off by looking at Atari's combat. If you're familiar with any of these, it's probably this one. Originally envisioned as a home conversion of that arcade game Tank, Atari's head of programming, Larry Wagner, ended up making one of the most iconic and long-lasting hits on the console. This was helped by the inclusion of another Atari arcade port, this time 1975's Jet Fighter, on the same cartridge. The game was included as a pack-in with the VCS up through 1982, where the game continued to sell as a standalone release, even in the face of newer and more impressive-looking titles. The game is divided up into 3 main modes, each one based around a different form of vehicular combat: tanks, biplanes, and jets. For the tank modes, each player controls a tank in either an open field or a maze of blocks and shapes, and the goal is to get as many points as possible within the 2-minute and 16-second time limit. You score points by shooting each other with missiles, which have their own variations based on which game mode is selected. The tank mode is straightforward enough. It uses tank controls, so pushing forward on the joystick makes you move forward regardless of the direction you're currently facing, and left and right on the joystick make your tank swivel either left or right in place. There's no way to go in reverse, so you'll need to keep that in mind when positioning your tank for an assault. The first few modes use a standard straight-firing missile, while the later modes add in guided missiles. Guided missiles can be controlled by moving the joystick left or right after a shot is fired. Calling it guided, though, feels slightly misleading. It really boils down to being able to change the direction of the shot about 2 times in 45-degree increments. It takes a bit of getting used to, but it's certainly more fun than the straight missiles. Getting hit makes your tank spin around wildly and move away from the direction of the attacker. This is done in an attempt to keep the one player from hitting the other player repeatedly. I did find that repeated scoring like this is still possible even with this measure in place, especially in the open field map.
Yeah, game design-wise, it's very interesting. You say it would be, I think it'd be a little bit, it's probably just the limited amount of time, but like, even just being able to go backwards would help out a lot.
Yeah.
Or if it, like, resets your positions after each attack, because it does feel like you could technically corner somebody.
You can't corner the other player against a wall, though. If a player is near a wall or barrier, their tank will be pushed through to the other side of it. In the case of surrounding walls, you'll be pushed through to the opposite side of the map. In other words, getting hit off the bottom of the screen makes you pop out on the top of it. This is a great feature, and it really helps keep things more fair, especially on the more complex maps. The most interesting additions to the tank mode come from the Tank Pong and Invisible Tank variations. The former has your missiles bouncing off any surface it comes in contact with, while the latter causes your tank to be completely invisible until you either fire off a shot or run into a wall.
Do you have any idea where you are right now?
No, apparently not. I thought I knew where I was at.
Oh gosh! Oh gosh!
It's like there I knew I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm close to him, but I don't know exactly. For me, it's usually the angle is what gets me. I thought that was the perfect plan, too. I even ended up exactly where I actually wanted to be. I just can't get the angle. I was like, okay, let me just go stealth mode for a second. I was like, maybe I can, And then my angle was all wrong.
Both modes are pretty fun in their own right, but the mode that puts them together is the real highlight. The one mode that never quite clicked with me was the billiard hit rules for Tank Pong. In these modes, the only way to score a hit is to have it bounce off at least one wall before hitting your opponent. Otherwise, your shots will just go right through them. It may sound kinda neat, but the hits you do score feel so much more luck-based than skill. This is especially true in the modes that combine invisible tanks with the billiard hit rules. Now, you can't even see to line up a ricochet, and the whole stealth angle is completely useless, since you can't sneak up on opponents and immediately blast them. It seems like the best strategy here is just to shoot as many shots in as many different directions as you can and hope for the best.
So yeah, a lot of this feels like luck for me right now.
Oh, I thought that might hit. No, you were lower than.
It's like there's some amount of like, I kind of know where you're at, and then I'm like, I think. Like, he was kind of in this area, he's probably moved some. Same thing with dodging, I'm like,
Oh.
Oh, wow, that... Okay. It's like we both knew at the exact same time. I was like, he's right there, I think.
Wow, we like broke the game there for
Now, while I want to mainly focus on the tank side of the game, I will briefly cover the most notable addition to Atari's offering, air combat. There are some modes that have you flying biplanes and some that use jets. The only real difference is how your aircraft is controlled. The biplane modes also use a side view while the jets are overhead. Flight controls are used for the planes, and initially they seem simple enough. Pull back on the joystick to fly up, push forward to fly down, push right to speed up, and left to slow down. As long as you're moving from the left side of the screen to the right, those controls work pretty well. But when going in the other direction, pushing right to speed up to the left never quite feels right. I just kept wanting to push up to speed up and left and right to go up and down. Considering the perspective, that just makes sense to me. It's not enough to ruin the game for me, but I never quite got used to it while recording footage. Thankfully, my opponent, Zayden1 from Chill Critical, struggled with the same issue, so they ended up being fairly even games. The Jet Fighters modes return to an overhead view from the tanks, and with it, a change to the controls. Left and right now move you left and right, and pushing up and down causes you to speed up or slow down, respectively. This feels much more natural, though it kind of threw me off going straight from the biplane controls. Also, the jets are way faster. Combat is a classic that can certainly still be enjoyed today, particularly due to its large number of modes and variations. I think there's enough here for most players to find a favorite. That said, the core concept is so basic that there's definitely room for other developers to grow and improve upon that foundation. So, did that end up being the case? Well, stay tuned for part 2, where I'll be covering Armored Encounter for the Odyssey 2 and Armor Battle on the Intellivision.